Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. It is up, and away for millions of travelers over the holidays. How is the region's largest airport preparing for the crowds? Joining us tonight is Paul Wiedefeld, CEO of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. Paul, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be back.
We've always heard that the Thanksgiving period, the day before Thanksgiving, is the busiest travel day. Mm-hmm. Is it really? And how does Christmas week compare?
They're pretty close. And it depends when Christmas falls. But when it falls on a Thursday, we started getting very busy last Friday. And we'll be busy through probably the 6th of January. So it's a very, very busy time.
And you get people who maybe haven't been to the airport a lot. One of the things I noticed dropping somebody off after Thanksgiving was the departure ramp was backed up because Southwest is right there, and everybody's trying to drop off at the very first Southwest sign for some reason, not really realizing you can go halfway through the airport and it's still Southwest these days.
Sure can. And in fact, right now we're adding new ticket counters for them, which will be around, in effect, the terminal. So they'll be moving their international ticketing to that area come March. So that'll help stretch out that whole drop-off area.
How much of your traffic is Southwest at this point?
Roughly 70%, just over 70%. Yep. And that's the way the industry's going. When you think about it, there's only 4 major airlines left. You know, it's American, Delta, United, and Southwest. Southwest is the largest domestic carrier in the U.S., so we're very fortunate to have them.
Also, to handle the crowds this time of year, you do allow for free parking, a short period of free parking in the garage. What's the idea?
It's basically help give people choices, get them off the roadway, so you get a half hour free. It really works out to be an hour because basically when you come in, you get another half hour to get to your car. So it really works out to be an hour.
So you have to wait until to put the ticket in the machine.
That's right. Well, people are creative.
That's
right. They do that. But even then, it's $2 for an hour and a half, so it's not that bad. We have a cell phone lot, which is very good. It's right by the old 4-Point Sheridan, if you know where that is, right there. You can park there.
The old Friendship Hotel, if you have a long memory.
Exactly. Please don't park on the side of 195. Very dangerous for people to pull out, so we don't allow that, and because it's just too dangerous for people. The other little hint I like to give is particularly in the evening hours, go upstairs and meet someone. You know, you don't have to pick up someone on the lower level. Go up to the upper level because that's not when a lot of people are leaving the airport, so that roadway's empty. So if someone's coming in and they're not carrying that many bags, and most people are coming off an aircraft at that level anyway, so they can go right up there and catch them.
So by 8 o'clock at night, it probably gets pretty quiet up there.
Yep, very quiet. So it's a
great
way to go.
The biggest development at BWI over the last year has been the increase in international travel, and part of that is Southwest.
It is. Southwest, in fact, their first international service was out of BWI in July. Their first new international route was announced for BWI in last summer as well. So they have 5 destinations they serve today. They're going to start Costa Rica, San Jose, Costa Rica in March. And they will also do other flights to Mexico very soon. We are being very aggressive in meeting those needs. We've worked with them quite a bit, and we're getting ready to build a new international gates for them, what we're calling the DE connector, which basically will be a new security checkpoint and will provide 2 international gates that provide access to the Customs Border Patrol and also for domestic travel.
We have a schematic sketch of what's going to be built over there, and to orient people with this picture, you can sort of see the parking garage in the center upper part and the horseshoe of the airport. Thanks for the arrow, and the dark gray is what you're building.
Exactly.
So down to the left there is the old D pier that used to go on, still goes on forever.
It does. And what we want to do is, if you've ever gone through the security checkpoint there, it's the worst product we have, and we want to get much better at that. So if you're familiar with the airport, there's a large aviation blue wall right as you enter the international concourse. That's where the new checkpoint will be.
That's like the history of aviation on that wall.
We'll be relocating that wall. But basically, you'll be able to enter there. It'll be very similar to what we just recently built, which is the BC connector. and that connected the B concourse to the C concourse. And it's a great product. It gives a much better experience going through security, provides us with the 2 additional gates, a lot more food and beverage and retail opportunities. We will be building a outdoor observation deck as part of that project, a new area for children to play in, and a few other amenities that we'll be putting in there as well.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about air travel, BWI in particular, during the holidays or after that, you can give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You could also tweet a question. Our Twitter address is @MPT News. So what else is happening? What's your big goal for 2015?
One of the big ones is we have major runway work that we have to complete. If you've been by the airport as you come in 195, that runway was closed for most of the summer. We were operating off of one runway, so quite challenging. We just reopened that facility, but next year we will shut down the other one for a good bit of time as well. So that's a big one for 15. The DE connector, as I mentioned, will be basically started. We've started that project internally, where we've moved some airlines. For instance, U.S. Airways is no longer where they were. They've shifted down to by the BC connector since they joined with American. United will be shifting over to where U.S. Airways was, so that we can start the construction of the connector itself. So that's a very large project, probably about $115 million project. And then we have a new hotel that we're looking to build. That will be basically at the back of the current hourly garage, so you'll be able to have direct access into the terminal. So at the top of the U, if you can imagine, you'll be able to go into Southwest Terminal at AB, or you'll be able to go to the E concourse. We also are researching and doing our work on putting a new tower for the FAA, for air traffic control. And that will be, if you're familiar, where the light rail station comes in, right to the air side of that. And then not too far into the future, we also are looking at expanding the E concourse even further, adding 5 additional gates to it. We have 6 there now. We'll pick up 2 in the spring of 16, and then we're looking to add another 5 in the 18-19 range as we work with Southwest and other airlines to grow international service.
So you think Southwest is going to continue to grow international? Are we talking Caribbean, Mexico, or, I mean, is it Europe or beyond?
Initially it will be the Latin America, Mexico, the northern tier of South America they can reach with their current aircraft, and Canada. Recently, the CEO, Gary Kelly, was at the Washington Board of Trade, and he went through some of their planning. With their current aircraft, they can serve 50 additional destinations, some domestic, but most of those international. And he repeatedly stated that we'd be a large part of that growth. And in our dealings with them, and when we go to Dallas and work through some issues, we're in effect their hub operational in the Northeast. So it makes a lot of sense for them to have more service out of BWI.
The airport has had incredible change and growth over the last decade or two. Where do you get points of friction? Where do you get complaints? I'm sure there's complaints from passengers. Sure. It's a busy day. Maybe there's weather delays and long lines. What would you like to be able to do better?
Yeah. Well, one thing is, when you're a growing airport, you're always under construction. So it makes it difficult for people because we have to move them around quite a bit. So for them and if they travel maybe, once or twice a year, they come in and everything's changed. So we do have we have almost 200 volunteers that basically provide information for people to try to make that as easy as possible. So that's one area. We constantly deal with issues with we have complaints about baggage. Sometimes it takes too long to get baggage, and that's not a physical issue. It's a labor issue from the airlines. The airlines control that. So we want to make sure that we have the physical capabilities to move bags as quickly as possible for them if they apply the labor. So that's one area that we are constantly, to be frank, hounding the airlines to make sure that they're on their game to do that.
Let's grab a phone call. This is Sally in Baltimore City. Sally, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. My question is, we have this wonderful airport, but it's very difficult for us to get to the airport and from the airport back into the city. So I was wondering if there are any plans to bring, a good, quick transportation system to Baltimore, to Washington, and maybe to Annapolis, because it's important for our whole system. Thank you.
Sally, thank you very much. I mean, you have some good options.
We do.
The light rail to Baltimore is a little sluggish, but it's there, and
light
the
rail to
highway
down-
stuff.
The light rail goes directly to the terminal. One of the few airports have light rail literally to a terminal. And what's interesting about that is if you ever go down there and there's a Yankee game or a Boston game, that service gets used by everyone, or Cleveland or Pittsburgh, people that fly in and use that transit line. So it works very well. We also have great service to Washington through the MARC system, the commuter rail system. And that also now, as you know, serves on weekends. So that's been fantastic for us. It runs late into the evening. And we have quite a few people from the Washington area that use that service as well. So from a rail transit perspective, we do very well. We also have over-the-road coaches that go from the ICC, from Gaithersburg, all the way to BWI Airport. We have direct connections from New Carrollton Station to BWI and from the Greenbelt Metro Station to BWI. And those are all express routes right to the terminal. So
from a
pretty good
competitive standpoint, there are 3 major airports in Metro DC. We have Dulles, Reagan National, and BWI Marshall. And you've been gaining market share. I mean, and National has been doing well, and Dulles has been losing share. What's driving all that?
There's a few things. From a customer perspective, obviously, if they're going to Washington, if they get to Reagan, it's 4 miles from the Capitol. We are 31 miles from U.S. Capitol, and Dulles is 29. So that is where a little bit of the competition comes in. So part of that is just what we offer. We offer lower fares, significantly lower fares. We manage the airport in a way that we keep our costs very low for the airlines, so that drives some of that. The airlines have a metric called cost per plane passenger. How much does it cost to move one passenger through an airport? And ours is below $10, and Reagan's is above $27. So when an airline's making business decisions, obviously that plays into it.
What accounts for that big a difference?
Part of it is the way that our business model works is a lot of stuff that we do, we charge back to the airlines. So, for instance, Dulles has a very nice people mover. But that's a multi-billion-dollar project
thing,
that the airlines and people are paying for. So it's just some decisions like that along the way. When I do work very closely actually with the Jack Potter who runs Dulles and Reagan, because it doesn't do either one of us much good if we're just taking from each other. We have to think of ourselves as a much larger region competing against regions throughout the U.S. and really around the world, around the globe. So that's the way that we've been attacking it together, is make sure that when we sell this region that you have 3 great airports, you have fantastic service from all kinds of providers, both United, American, and Southwest. So you got 3 of the big 4 right here. So that's really our goal, is make sure that we're working together. And we'll have our little skirmishes between each other, but the real competition is global.
Let's talk to Christine in Baltimore County. Christine, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Hi, I have a question for you. My dad is 92, and he's flying in actually tomorrow from Houston. And he brought to my attention that there are none of those, I call them golf carts, that will take you from one gate to another in Baltimore. And at first I thought, there's no way. But actually, there are no golf carts. Why is that? And I'm going to hang up and listen offline.
Christine, thank you for the call.
Good question. We do get asked that quite a bit. It's really the narrowness of our concourses don't allow it. So we've tried it in the past, but it actually becomes a bit of a life safety issue if an event occurs. So we do have porters that will basically meet him at the aircraft and basically use a wheelchair to take him to wherever you want to go. So that is a service that we do provide.
Todd in Baltimore County. Todd, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question really is, will BWI ever have, more service to Europe? It's frustrating. In the past, you have to really go to Reagan or actually go to IAD in order to get any kind of real travel to Europe. So that's my question.
Todd, thanks for the phone call. Now, and that's an area where, in terms of market share outside of Baltimore and Washington, a lot of people drive up to Philadelphia, where U.S. Air has service all over the place.
Right. If I could put a little bit of context in it, and I'll answer Todd's question more directly. There's roughly 465 airports, commercial airports in this country. 10 of them handle over 85% of all international traffic. So that's just the marketplace that we're in. And then when you think of how international traffic works, it works by basically having passengers feed into a service that then goes long distance. So when you talk of Dulles or you talk of Philadelphia, you have hub operations of United and US Airways where people are coming from all over the country, feed into those areas, and then leave. The beauty of BWI is that we have Southwest Airlines, and they do a great job. Unfortunately, they don't code share with anyone else, and they were not flying international. So if 70% of the business doesn't fly international and does not code share with anyone, that's sort of what we're up against. That's flipping as Southwest goes international. To get to the issue of international, transatlantic international, we do have daily service to Heathrow Airport through British Airways. We have seasonal service now through Condor to Frankfurt, Germany. And they just increased from 2 times a week to 3 times a week this summer. And we have a new airline, what's called an ultra low fare international airline called WOW Airline. They're headquartered in Iceland, in Reykjavik. They'll be flying from BWI to Reykjavik, and then with connections to Copenhagen and to London out of that service. That is most likely what you'll see out of BWI in the future. There is a shift in the marketplace where there's going to be many more opportunities for low-fare international service. And that is the new model that's coming online. So I think in the next few years, you'll see quite a bit of that.
International travel, transatlantic, is especially expensive, and especially in the summer. But I think a lot of it is taxes, and I'd read that a lot of it was capacity issues at Heathrow. So how does WOW, is that what it's called? WOW Airlines?
Yeah.
How do they make a dent in that?
A number of ways. Is they have very new aircraft. They have labor. They have they're new operations, so their labor costs are lower. The way they operate their aircraft, they constantly have it up in the air. They're not making a lot of connections, which can cause issues. And it's what they're looking for. And there's another large one out called Norwegian Air as well. They're not looking to code share or connect. They think, or they know, that people will use these computers we all carry in our pockets, and they'll make their own connections. And by doing that, they want to connect to where the lowest fare domestic carrier is in the U.S., which is what we have here with Southwest. And then people will figure it out on their own, which people are doing now. Whereas, 10, 15 years ago, you were sort of at the mercy of the airline. Now it's, you have more of the control. So that's what's evolving in the industry right now.
And they start up in June?
They do.
And people might want to look on the website for some of those fares.
They had sales at $99, one way. I mean, they are very low. Even with all the fees and stuff in place, they're easily half the price of a more traditional carrier.
Montgomery County, this is Iris. Iris, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
When I listen to the radio in bad weather or different times when they're talking about airports, in this area, all you hear are about Reagan and National. They act as though BWI doesn't even exist, and I think BWI is a wonderful airport. I don't know what can be done about that, but the people ought to know that it's here.
Iris, thank you for the phone call. You might want to call the radio station.
Thank you. WTOP actually covers us. And 99.1 or 99.9 would
which is highly focused on Baltimore.
Yeah, they do Baltimore and Washington.
Here's a tweet. Is BWI getting a larger duty-free area like the big international airports?
We are. In fact, it's interesting. A duty-free shop opened up in the Southwest Terminal at the new connector there. Again, because they're going international. And then at the E-concourse, when we build the new connector, we'll have more space to build a larger facility. So we'll be doing that as well.
What are the odds on a flight to Cuba at some point? Southwest could get there.
Southwest could, but there's actually, we have a vendor that basically has the right to do that now. If you recall, about a year ago, he announced that. He started off service primarily from Florida to Cuba. With the recent announcement by the president, I wouldn't be too surprised if you see that in the very near future.
Also read something about a new satellite navigation system for planes that I guess is to make the arrival process less angular, because you always went this way and made a hard turn and that way and then in. And the idea is it allows you to sort of do it more gradually. How does that work?
Well, unfortunately, the way it works today is we're using 1940s technology. We're still using radar. The new technology uses GPS, just like we have in our pockets. And by doing that, basically, it allows the aircraft to just, in effect, move in a straight line. The airplanes are talking to each other and not through a air traffic controller. And it's a multi-billion-dollar investment by both airlines and the federal government to do. And that's sort of been what's holding it up. But they are starting to move in that direction. We recently were part of that, some of the initial steps of that, along with Reagan and Dulles. So again, that is our future. And that changes everything, because it changes some of the noise issues around airports. It helps with the capacity of airports. Maybe you don't need as many runways in the future, because you have it's much more efficient to run that way.
Where are you in terms of capacity? I think Dulles has some parallel runways. Mm-hmm. Do you need that at some point?
We potentially do in the future. We have one in our long-range plan. We have 2 major runways today, commercial runways, and we have a smaller general aviation runway as well. We are at 22 million passengers. We can handle probably 30 to 35 million passengers, both on the air side and on the terminal side. But so much of it depends on technology in the future. All that could change, where you could go up much higher in terms of passengers. But some of these things would have to come into play.
Anne Arundel County, this is Fred. Fred, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, thanks for the show.
You bet.
My question is, as an older person who's talking to a lot of friends who are going to do a lot of traveling, we're looking for direct flights, and we wondered whatever happened to the direct flight from BWI to Ireland.
Thank you.
Sure, that's a good question, Fred. Interesting about Ireland, the history of Ireland was Shannon Airport is where the service used to leave from BWI to Shannon. Shannon was the initial stop during World War II for pretty much, that's where you had to refuel. And as a result, the Irish government required half of all flights to Ireland to land in Shannon. So the service that we had at BWI landed in Shannon, which was good during the tourist season, but not good for business.
Business wanted
was
Dublin. Okay.
So it hurt us, and in fact, we were the poster child for then Willie Walsh, who was the chairman of Aer Lingus, who's now the chairman of British Airways, and saying that basically the government was tying his hands. He couldn't grow the business because he had this. The comparison I always make is Breezewood. If you think of Breezewood in our community.
Pennsylvania Turnpike, Breezewood?
Yeah, where you have to go through Breezewood.
Right.
Well, why is that? Because development's occurred over time, and I'm sure there's a lot of pressure not to go around that development.
And the merchants have
so
lobbyists.
that hurt us with that service. Again, I think that in the future, that's a potential service. We have been talking to a number of airlines about that service, because we have a very strong market for it here. But if you force people to go someplace they'd rather not go to first, it's very difficult.
Back to Montgomery County, this is Diane. Diane, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, with the Gaithersburg shuttle that takes you to BWI from Gaithersburg, Maryland, with the parking conditions, there's a huge lot there, but how long are you allowed to keep your car parked in that lot when you travel?
You're allowed to keep it there. We've worked with both local police and some of our police, particularly on the ICC, that patrol those lots. So you're allowed to keep them there.
I don't think you're allowed to keep cars overnight at metro lots.
Some of the metro,
depending on the lot. About the ICC, I think that bus goes across the ICC up to BWI. The road's been open a few years now. Right. Has it had the impact it was expected to have? It
has. It's brought, the previous caller just called from Gaithersburg, it's brought that 35 minutes closer to BWI. It's brought the I-270 corridor closer to BWI. And some of the data that we've recently seen by the Washington Council of Governments shows that that area, which used to more than 50% of the people went to Dulles, now the more than 50% come to BWI. So it's having the exact effect that we thought it would have.
Let's squeeze in one more call. Alexandria, this is Wolfgang. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
I have just one comment to make. I wish you had more signs. When you come in from Baltimore, from Washington, there is not enough signs to say where is the departure and where is the arrival and how do you get there. I got lost twice now trying to go to the Baltimore BWI airport. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. So I guess signage is always an issue.
It is.
In just a few seconds.
Sure. Of 195, I mean, 195 becomes a terminal roadway, so it's you pretty much have to go up or down, departure or arrival. It ends at the airport. So
departure
I'll take
is up.
another look at that just to make sure.
Yeah, next time you drive in. Paul Wiedefeld, CEO of BWI, thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.
Happy holidays. Thank you for joining us for Direct Connection. We're back Thursday with Your Money and Business. Have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.